Hey, what's happening, gamers? How's everybody doing? Welcome to a special Road to Mario Kart World. This is episode 3. Here we go, Toad. Of course, this is a marathon series building up hype for the new Mario Kart World that comes out on June 5th, 2025 on Nintendo Switch 2. And Nintendo Switch 2 has a lot of controversy right now. So much controversy, so many delays, all kinds of problems, but we're still going to do our best to hype up the system because we're both excited about it. Amber won't be on the stream today because she's prepping for my brother-in-law and his wife and 2 kids coming by. So streams are going to be a lot different today. You guys will have some YouTube shorts later this evening. And probably around 8 o'clock, 7:30 is when Xenoblade will start. So there probably won't be a third stream tonight, but you'll have lots of shorts in between. As well as you can go back and rewatch aspects of Ace Attorney. There was no Suikoden stream today because there was no way of doing that. Suikoden will be tomorrow. So let's get the likes up for more Mario Kart. And we're going to be doing 100 CCs today in the N64 game. So see where it goes. Scroll down memory lane, talk about more about the 90s and all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, because, you know, this was gaming in the 90s. Well, not this game in particular, but, you know, Mario Kart in general. After we complete Mario Kart 64, which will probably be tomorrow, that means either Mario Double Dash or Mario Kart Super Circuit will be the next in line. And hopefully next week or the week after we'll be looking at some brand new games. Because that's the plan. But hopefully you guys having a good one, and you're ready for more Mario Kart. At least that's the plan. So we're going back to the N64, obviously. This cat game got, like, numerous copyright claims. Apparently they use TV music, which was a big no-no. So, yeah, that's a problem. But, yeah, I know the Ace Attorney stream is going on. Amber and I couldn't decide what the start time was going to be because, well, we didn't know what time my brother-in-law was coming. So, before it's like they were coming in the morning, it's like, okay, we're going to run the video in the morning. And then they're like, nope, we'll be here in the afternoon. It's like, okay, so we'll start at 1 o'clock or 12:30. So, that'll only run for 5 hours, so... Gonna have to do something in between. Are you back? I don't know what that means. Back from what? No, they're coming later, but I still have to stream, so. They're coming later. We have to do what we can to keep our numbers stable, so. If you guys want to have Ace Attorney run in the background, or pause it and rewatch it later or something like that, you can always pause the live feed and, you know, continue where you are later if you want. Whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Wait, is this frozen? Oh, wow. Why did this computer freeze? It's total lockup. Total lockup. Bam. Ba-bam. Alright, let's go. 1996. Good times. 100 CCs. Okay, so yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, we played as Donkey Kong, Wario, Bowser, and Peach. That means today it'll be Toad, Luigi, and Yoshi. Yeah! So why don't we do some Toad action? Yahoo! This is the OG voice of Toad. Toad, you guys know, Toad's voice changed over time. Toad went from, like, a very high-pitched voice to kind of a smoker voice. Yahoo! Something like that. I don't know why they decided on doing that to Toad, but it is what it is. Mushroom. Alright, here we go. Mushroom, 100cc Toad. Bam! Let's go! Gaming in the 90s. Toad of, yeah, Toad. Toadster. The Toaderino. The Toadmeister. Toad is actually one of my favorite characters. So what do you guys think of all the controversy going on with Nintendo Switch 2? Pretty crazy, right? You have all the craziest things that I've seen is people who weren't born in the 90s or lived as a child in the 90s. Here's the main arguments on social media right now. And this is weird, okay? Because I've never heard this. They said if you were born in the 80s, then your childhood would be in the 80s. Except most of us born in the 80s, like, we lived through the 80s as toddlers. So it's not like we really remember it, right? I can vaguely remember, like, 88 and 89 a little bit. But most of my childhood, like, the stuff that I really remember is, like, 1990 through, like, 1997 or something like that. Because I went to grade school from, like, 1990 through, you know, wherever. So, technically, even though I was born in the 80s, I would have been a 90s kid. So anyway, the big argument is, if you were born in that era, then that's the childhood you were. Even if you were an infant, it didn't really make any sense, because usually when you're developing, that's when your childhood would be. So I developed, and I went to school in the 90s. I went to grade school through high school in the 90s. You know, I did, what do you call it? I went to preschool in 1989. But I was in kindergarten in 1990. Something like that. Yeah. So it was just like, to see these people arguing about this stuff online is like, whoa, it's like, hold the phone there, guy. It's like, how can you say somebody who's in their 40s wasn't a child of the 90s just because you're in your 30s? It's like, if you were born in the 90s, yeah, it's like, technically you also had your childhood in the early 90s or the late 90s, and you know, mostly you were a kid of the 2000s, though, because you went to... When did you start school? Some of these people are like, well, I didn't start, you know, kindergarten until, like, 1999 or 2000. It's like, well, then, I mean, there you go. Then, for most of your childhood was in the 2000s. Whereas most 80s kids, their childhood was in the 90s. It's not that hard to go through. But anyway, the whole argument with them started, like, online, because they're arguing over prices of games. They're saying... They're trying to tell us, people who live there, and as well as, like, I was a teenager in the 90s, so I had people arguing with me. I worked at Blockbuster, and I worked at EB Games, eventually becoming, like, an assistant manager, right? So I would know the prices of the games, because I literally not only saw the prices in the computer, but I put the prices on the games themselves. That was my job. So I had people arguing with me. Some big YouTubers are like, I got, you know, Diddy Kong Racing a few weeks after it came out for $5. I'm like, what? It's like, that's not physically possible. It's like, there is no way that you could buy a brand new game on the N64, fully packaged, in 1998 for $5. There's no way. Unless maybe you went to a pawn shop or something, because pawn shops didn't know the correct prices for games, but N64 games, even in 1997, 1998, were $59.99. Right? So, I don't like these younger, like, no offense, like these kids in their 20s and teenagers who are arguing with us who lived that era, telling us that we're remembering it wrong about the prices. It's like, we lived it! You know, we had to go make it a Blockbuster night because we couldn't afford, you know, buying all the games because the games were so expensive. It's like, we lived TGIF, thank God it's Fridays. You didn't! You were sucking your thumb or a pacifier. There's no way you would know what the prices were. It's like, what? So, it's a weird time on the internet right now, because all these people are saying, you know, yo, I lived this, and games did not cost 50, 60 bucks in the mid-90s. It's like, yes, they did. It's possible that you got, like, some other games cheaper later on. Like, there were sales for N64 and stuff all the time. Wow, I'm getting destroyed. Let's restart this. I'm getting demolished. I might have to do save states. I don't remember 100Cs being this bad, but I'm getting destroyed. Anyway, try again. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, like, with Blockbuster, I can tell you what we did. If a game didn't sell well, Blockbuster, right? Like, let's say that you rented 2 Blockbuster games for $4.50 or something like that. Like, N64 games were like $2 a piece or something, or like a $1.75 or whatever. I don't remember. Long time ago. We had a bargain bin that came from pre-used games starting in the year 2000 is when we would actually start to get, like, used games for N64 and stuff like that. And same thing with EB Games. Like, we started to sell used N64 games as soon as 1998. Because N64 came out in 1996. And, you know, at GameStop, we were doing, like, pre-used stuff or whatever, right? Okay. So, we had a bargain bin, and maybe you guys remember these bargain bins. There was a company that distributed Super Nintendo, N64, NES, and Genesis games in colored cardboard boxes that had shrink wrap on them. There was no manual. There was no fancy box art. There was a bin in front of KB Toys, EB Games, Walmart, not Target, Sam Goody, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster. All these places had the same company that was distributing these used games that were put into shrink wrap, like nice looking plastic or whatever, with blue meant Super Nintendo or Genesis, I believe. And red was N64. And I don't remember the other color. Light blue, I think, was NES, or black. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. So we had that. And these old games don't mess around. Mario Kart from 29 years ago is just smoking me. And this is only 100 cc's, and I'm struggling. This is crazy. I said I was never good at Mario Kart, though, so, I mean, it's a given. But I was hoping to do at least a little bit better at 100 cc's. But I'm getting demolished here. Absolutely demolished. But anyway, so a company would distribute these games, right? You'd get them shrink wrapped, and then you would sell them for really cheap because they'd just be sitting in the bargain bin. Correct? You know, and we would do it that way. So, like, because for the most part, we weren't really selling a lot of pre-used N64 games after the year 2001. Why is that? Well, because we were, you know, making shelf space for the brand new kid on the block, which was Xbox. Microsoft gave us, like, these massive displays and stuff, and we, you know, the last N64 that came out recently would have been Majora's Mask. So there wasn't really a lot of big N64 games. Even by the year, like, 1999, 2000, we didn't have a huge section for N64 games, like at my EB Games. There was, like, I don't know, maybe 15 games, and you had tons of, like, PlayStation and Dreamcast and all this other stuff. And N64 was there, but it didn't have as big of a presence. We had more colorful N64 units than we did games at my store. And that was just normal. Because what would happen is, back in the day, there was no retro market, right? Companies would dump their stock and give us, like, these shrink-wrap games to sell in our bargain bin if people were looking for used games. And we would mark them up at about 15 to 20 bucks, something like that. NES games were like 10, maybe 15, depending on the game. Like, we knew what was popular because we were gamers, right? So we would be able to tell, okay, this game was super popular, so we're going to sell this for more. Like, there were people online saying, I got, you know, a brand new Donkey Kong game for like $5. It's like, what year? It's like, I would, you know, maybe in the year 2004, 2005, you could get an N64 game for like $1 or $5 if you got it at a bargain bin. But a fully, what do you call it? A game in the box, never been opened, you know, nice looking copy. No way. That would never happen. Because FuncoLand was around then, and FuncoLand was making a killing on the retro scene when there was no retro market. You would actually have to go to a place like FuncoLand, and they were, you know, selling the games for almost their original value. If you wanted a brand new N64 game, Funko was selling it for $19.99 or $29.96. They weren't selling it for like $5. And Funko was the only game in town, really, for the retro market because retro gaming didn't exist yet. This is what happened, okay? So, in the 2000s, this was very common. A new system would come out. The old system would be heavily marked down and clearanced, and we would put it out front for when the customer first came into the store because we needed to make room for GameCube, Xbox, Dreamcast, PS2, whatever. PS Vita, Game Boy Advance SP, whatever. You always needed to have the new stuff in there, and there wasn't really a market for selling used games, right? Not really. So, when it was not uncommon for us to literally throw out our N64 stock or to send it back to GameStop for them to try to sell it, you know, as like used whatever so that we could make room for stuff. And it was very common for us to, and I hate to say this, but this was true. Most game stores, in order to, like, we would not send the games in their boxes. So we would literally take gutted games and we would send them back to corporate, and corporate would make them used because they're open. It's not necessarily we got them as trade-ins or anything like that. Like, we got the games, opened them up, send them back to corporate. Corporate sent them back in shrink-wrapped, colorful boxes, and they got stuck in the bargain bin. And then we'd mark them down heavily and try to get rid of it. If we couldn't get rid of the stock, this is what would happen. The games would either be thrown out in a massive trash can at the end of the week, or whatever, or employees would take it home, or maybe, you know, we would do our employee discount. You know, getting the games for real cheap. I was a collector, so yeah, of course I wanted to buy N64 games I couldn't afford when I was a kid or whatever. Man, Toad always spins out because he's so weak. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reload this. I don't think we're gonna win this. So yeah, it's just, I don't like when people lie about the past, because it's like, you weren't there, right? Retro gaming didn't exist. Retro gaming was only thanks to online culture, because for the longest time, what was accepted was an old system was thrown out or clearance to make way for the new thing. And it wasn't uncommon for you to be driving in your car, and there would be massive garage sales where all these people are selling older systems like Super Nintendo, Genesis, N64, whatever, and trying to make as much money as they could on it. You know, because their kid went to college or whatever, maybe they're in the military, it doesn't matter. This stuff's all gone, right? So that's what would happen. And when people would try to trade in their N64 games or something to us when GameCube and stuff was out, we didn't really give them anything for it because it wasn't really worth anything. It's like, what are we going to do with this old N64 game when we're selling GameCube, PS2, Game Boy Advance SP, all this other stuff? Like, what is my store going to use this for? How am I going to sell this? I can't. There's no market for it. I don't have room in my store. I've got all this Xbox stuff here. I've got all this Game Boy Advance. I've got... where am I going to put this stuff? You know? I already got a bargain bin full of old NES, Super Nintendo, and N64 games that nobody's buying. Like, once in a while, a little kid will come in and they'll pick something up, but, you know, we're just trying to get rid of the stuff because we would like to put in bargain bins for GameCube games that are getting old, and PlayStation 2, and, you know, whatever. Or DVDs. So it's not like we were a Funko land, right? It's like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Like, how am I going to use all this stuff in my store? I can't. So yeah, we would literally just trash the stuff. The online retro market boomed because of people like Angry Video Game Nerd right around 2005, 2006. Where now, retro games not only were selling like crazy, but people were trying to find all these retro games to play again. Retro wasn't old anymore, it was new. And that's why places like Funko Land and like all these new retro stores popping up made a killing in the mid-2000s, because there was finally a market for retro again. Where retro games was like this: either you kept your old games, that you could get nothing for them, or you tried to sell them and put them toward new game systems. That's what was commonly acceptable for gamers. We didn't hoard our old stuff. There was, you know, there was no reason to, because there wasn't really, you know, outside of memories and stuff like that, people needed money all the time. You needed to sell your games for whatever reason. Car payments, paying for your cable, you know, maybe paying for groceries, maybe paying it towards a new game console. There was no retro market. So I don't like when all these people are Twitter like, yeah, it's like I picked up this game for $5 in 2004. N64 games were a lot, you know, cheaper than you guys remember. It's like, used N64 games, maybe, but there were still places, even in the early 2000s. Does anybody remember a store called Sam Goody or Suncoast? They were like movie stores and music stores. Sam Goody was selling brand new N64 games in the year 2002 at $59, where even Walmart and like KB Toys and Toys R Us were barely selling N64 games for about $20 a piece. there were still stores that were selling brand new N64 games that came out 4 or 5 years ago at their original market price. So it's very hard for me to believe that even a wholesale store outside of like the shrink-wrapped bargain bin games that I told you guys about would be selling those games. Like for the, you know, in-box, never damaged, whatever, for $10 or $5. I don't believe that. I think those YouTubers on Twitter are lying. Because it's not possible. I could believe they got it from a garage sale. I would have, you know, more reason to believe, yeah, they picked it up at a garage sale. That makes a lot of sense. Because, like I said, parents, grandparents would get their kids old games when they went off to college. Because most kids didn't bring their N64 with them. Everybody was playing Xbox in 2002, or they were playing GameCube or PS2. So it wasn't like people were bringing their N64 to do Smash Brothers and GoldenEye. So if it was left home and the kids hadn't been home for years, the parents would sell their stuff at a garage sale. Especially in the Chicago area. I would drive home from work sometime. There would be these big yard sales or garage sales, whatever you want to call them, where I would stop by and I would pick up a N64 or Genesis game for like $1 in the box. Because these parents didn't know the value. They were just, you know, I was like, cool, I got Legacy of Darkness for like $2 in the box in shrink wrap. You know? But other than that, no, you still had to pay for this stuff. Like at its value. That's not to say that there weren't like N64 games that weren't cheap. Some of you may remember the Player's Choice thing for Nintendo 64, which there was this huge badge on the box that said Player's Choice, and the game was like $39.96 or at the lowest $29.99. So you could get Mario Kart 64, Diddy Kong Racing, GoldenEye, Mario 64. Never Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers never made that. They always sold that at $59.99. What is it? Ocarina of Time, Jet Force Gemini, things like that. Cruisin' USA. They had the big badge on the box, which looked ugly, by the way. But for most of us who couldn't afford paying $59.99 a game, even with jobs, like Player's Choice was literally your go-to option to buy N64 games that were really good. You know, like the cream of the crop, Wave Racer, all that stuff. You would do the Player's Choice. The only problem is, as a collector later on, you would have these N64 games that on the box had this huge badge up in the top right corner. And it made the box look really bad. Because before it said only on N64, and then you had this huge badge that says Player's Choice, which meant you bought the cheaper version. Now, when GameCube did that, they had a yellow, like, marquee on the box. It wasn't massive. It was like this yellow square, either at the top or the bottom of a GameCube game that said Player's Choice or Player's Select. I don't remember. And that was the cheaper option for GameCube at like $20, something like that. I don't think they went higher than 20. I think they were like 19 or maybe $29.99. But I have a couple Player's Choice GameCube games where you can see the yellow marquee on the box art. And it's not super gaudy, but if somebody was browsing through your game collection, you would know that they got a cheaper version of Luigi's Mansion or whatever. And the reason why they did that for so many games on the GameCube is because the GameCube did not sell. The GameCube flopped. The N64 sold 40 million copies, right? The GameCube only sold 22 million. So Nintendo, by like 2005, right around the announcement of the Wii, like game stores and Nintendo were trying to get rid of their GameCube stuff. So there were so many GameCube games that had that yellow marquee on them. Because, you know, nobody could really sell them as much. PS2 was selling like crazy. Xbox was even taking a lot of the market away from Nintendo. So the only thing that Nintendo was dominating in was their portable market, which was the Game Boy Advance at the time, and by 2004, the Nintendo DS. Thank you for the super chat. I didn't see who did that. Retro Collector. That's right, Alpha. But yeah, I don't understand all the lying though. Like, what benefit do people have to lie about saying that like telling us who lived the 90s, right? Saying, hey, even though you were a kid in the 90s and your parents struggled to get you video games, I got Diddy Kong Racing for $5 brand new 3 weeks after it came out in 1997. It's like, what? No, you didn't. You're a liar. People weren't even garage selling N64 games until the year 2000. Shut up. It's like, maybe you bought the game off your brother for $5 because he thought it was stupid or something, but no way. It's like, these people, these YouTubers, to try to make themselves look cool because talking about retro stuff is cool, right? They make up these outlandish stories that aren't true. It's like, just be real. It's like, yeah, man, I picked up Diddy Kong Player's Choice for $29.96. It's like, that's believable. Because, yeah, it was Player's Choice, so totally. But, you know, and I do call out liars because it's stupid. 100%. It's just, it's not the reality, you know? Wait, when did I do 100 CCs and get gold? I don't remember doing this. Whatever, I guess I did. These type of YouTubers are historic revisionists. I would believe it, yeah. Yeah, that HMK guy especially, like, basically gaslighting, like, all these, like, dudes my age saying, yeah, you guys are remembering it a different way, because I picked up Diddy Kong for $5 3 weeks after it came out. You guys are just trying to excuse prices. It's like, we're not trying to excuse prices, we're telling people what it was like. I don't think Nintendo selling games at $80 a pop is a good idea, because I know what's going to happen. Nintendo selling $80 games is going to cause PlayStation to raise their games to $90. Games aren't $90 yet, but more of these companies that do this kind of stuff, like, they're going to raise their prices just because Nintendo did. So what Nintendo needs to do, and I said this during my stream, is you need to sell your games at the current market valued price of, like, no more than, like, $70. Like, because PlayStation 5 sells games for $69.99, I believe. You can't go any higher than that right now, because it's going to change the market. And actually, Nintendo games have always sold $10 under their competitors. So if PlayStation was selling and Xbox were selling games for, in the US for like $59.99, guess how much Nintendo was selling their games for before the Switch? They were selling their games at $10 cheaper, $49.99. They did it with GameCube, they did it with Wii, and they did it with Wii U. It wasn't until Nintendo Switch that they raised the price to $59.99. Why did they do that? Because Iwata was dead. Why did they do that? Because Doug Bowser was now the president of America. Reggie stepped down. Did you know that Reggie actually tried to keep prices affordable for American consumers and Canada? In North America, Reggie tried to keep prices competitively low for American families, because he knew that like the Nintendo games, while fun and great, had no reason to be $60 because they weren't as graphically high-end as their competitors. Plus, if they made the games cheaper, who was more likely to buy a Nintendo GameCube or Nintendo Wii game over a $50 PS3 game? Like, if you went to the store and you owned a Wii, and you're with your mom, theoretically, or dad, or whatever, or cousin, and they say you can pick up a game, are they going to buy you the $60 game for your PS3? Or are they going to get you a cheap Wii or Wii U game that you have at home? Chances are the parents are going to go for the cheaper option. Right? And that's why Reggie was so smart. Like, Reggie Fils-Aimé was brilliant. Because he kept prices competitive in a way that was affordable for anybody who wanted to jump on board Nintendo. What Nintendo's doing right now, like, if they don't change the prices of their games, they're going to repeat the same problem that they had with GameCube and stuff like that, where they were selling their games at the same price as their competitors. they always have to be a little bit lower. You know, they're thinking that they're gonna hit it like, you know, hard like they did with Switch and sell 150 million Switch 2s. I don't think so. If the market price for the Switch 2 goes up because of the tariffs to, like, let's say $500, where it was $450, now it's going to be $50 more, and then $50 more with the pack-in game, you know, because it was $450, then it was $500, or wait, was it $400 and then $450, or was it... I don't remember the original prices. Was it $450 for the Switch 2 base and $500 for the Switch 2, or was it $400 base and $450 for the Switch 2? I can't remember because the prices are so ridiculous. But let's say they have to round it up by 50. It's not going to be $600. I've seen people freaking out. They're like, man, Switch 2 is going to be like $600, man. It's like, there's no way. Not going to happen. That's a fantasy world. But I do think it's going to raise by like $50, something like that. And a lot of people are blaming our president, which I don't like him, by the way. But, I mean, he's our president. I hated Biden. I don't like Trump either. But anyway, what people are forgetting, there's actually tariffs that are happening in Vietnam right now. There's something going on in Vietnam where Nintendo, because they were, you know, being cheapskates and they didn't want to work with Hong Kong anymore, they had an agreement with Vietnam to make the Switch 2. So the Switch was made by China. The Wii U was put together by China. Nintendo cut China out and went with Vietnam because they're a cheaper option. But there's problems going on with Vietnam right now. So what ended up happening is the Switch 2, part of the reason the prices were so high to begin with is because the distribution and the creation of the system is over in Vietnam. So you've got all the problems with Vietnam pricing, that Nintendo's losing money, plus you've got the American tariffs at the same time, and that's why the system's so expensive. So you have like two people to blame. Vietnam, or two countries. Vietnam and America. Which is why the system was so expensive to begin with. And I had no idea what's going on because I don't really pay attention to politics at all, personally, because politics are divisive. Like they always have been. Except politics now are nastier than they were in the 2000s. People agreed to disagree. They didn't get into fist fights. Nobody got stabbed. All this other stuff. Like, people are way too invested in politics like it's a sporting event. You know, you have two sides, like, yelling at each other all the time. It wasn't like that in the 2000s or the 90s. You know, people would get heated and be like, you know what? You've got an opinion about this. I got an opinion about this. Let's just not talk about this. And people would be like, yeah, you're right. Agree. And, you know, people would drop it, and they talk about TV shows or sports or something like that. But it wasn't the revisionist history that people say the 90s were, where people are always arguing about politics. It's like the only thing people argued about was TV shows, sports teams, and video games. And occasionally the price of eggs. Well, the price of eggs were not that bad. Holy crap, I can't catch Peach at all. Holy cow, I can't catch Peach. Peach is gone. Yeah, but I mean, I don't understand why a lot of these game reporters weren't reporting the whole Vietnam thing. Because Nintendo did a press event in Japan where they were talking about how they started up manufacturing with Vietnam with just this console. After the Switch OLED, they cut ties with Hong Kong and Shanghai or whatever, and they went with Vietnam because they thought that, you know, stuff with Vietnam would be cheaper than working with China. Also, they wanted to cut China out of the equation because Japan's mad at China currently, or they have been for 5 years or something. I don't know. Like, I don't understand the whole geopolitical thing. But there's some beef going on between China and Japan, so they went with Vietnam. Apparently, a year and a half ago, there was manufacturing problems with Vietnam, right? And Japan is paying for that now, so, like, the prices on everything that come from imports from Vietnam to Japan is much more expensive over in Japan. And, you know, since Vietnam made the Switch 2 and put it together, I mean, they didn't create it, but you have to remember the assembly plant for the Switch 2 is not in Japan or China. It's in Vietnam. And Vietnam has a lot of stuff going down right now, which is impacting how they do things. And Nintendo's feeling the burn from that. So not only are they getting pressure from America now with the tariff things, But they've been having pressure from Vietnam, which is why the system was announced at the price it was. And Nintendo purposely, you know, had to raise the price in order to, you know, make a good profit on it. Oh my gosh, I'm getting destroyed at 100 cc's. I am, wow. Wow, 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 wow. I underestimated this game so much. I'm probably going to get destroyed in Super Mario Kart too. But mostly this was just like kind of a fun stroll down memory lane. I need to restart because we're dusted. We're dusted, yo! Reload! What's with the super chat? Nintendo. Japan and China have had beef for thousands of years. Yeah, I know, but like they were friendly for a while, but they've gotten into like really big business thingies at the moment. Like they've been at each other's throats like business-wise, Miss Deanna. Like there's some type of deal that went south or something like that a while ago. Like I said, I don't pay attention to all the geopolitical stuff going on in the world too much. Sometimes when it revolves around video games, then I get, you know, involved because then it becomes like in my orbit, right? It's part of my wheelhouse of things like, oh, okay, this is what's going down, right? So it's like, okay, I understand what's going on a little bit. But like all these YouTubers, man, were just like screaming at America, being like, it's all America's fault for this. But it's like, did any of them ever, you know, take 5 seconds to research what's going on between like where the manufacturer for the system is now and things like that? No, they just rage bait people. It's like, you know, because the thing is, what you have to understand, even the game publications, they love to stir up political strife because they get clicks on their website. They use your guys' anger and emotion to bring you toward their website, and they choose a political side because they're farming rage, because rage equals clicks. You get it? So the reason why they're not talking about, you know, the manufacturing for the Switch 2 is because that would add a rational reason why the price is so high, and that's not good for business. Oh crap. It's that simple. Now, like I said, Mr. Orange Man is to blame for some things, but it's not all his fault. And like or hate the guy, you know, America is improving, like, economic-wise. But, you know, you could argue, well, that's because of the last guy in office, and, you know, whatever. You can, whatever. People did that all the time. They did that when W was in office. They said, well, this is because of Gore and Clinton. So, I mean, everybody does that. So that's besides the point. But America is to blame for some things, but Japan and Vietnam are to blame as well. You know, Japan was trying to... It was Iwata that always wanted the system to be manufactured cheaply because, well, they could sell it cheaper. If you have something made from a particular manufacturing place in China, which, you know where I'm going with this, you could save money. Oh my gosh! And my race is over. Just like that, my race is over. You cannot recover. I will not get first place now. It's over. I will never, ever catch Yoshi. This is what gaming 29 years ago was like. You cannot recover from this. If I do not get a golden mushroom, I am hosed. I'm 100% hosed. Because Yoshi is gone. You can't even see Yoshi on the map. Oh, there he is. I'm going to get lucky. Good. Well, I'm going to save state this. If I win, I'm save stating this. Because I don't want to do this again. This is stressful, man. 100 cc's is stressful. Forget. Skip. I'm not doing 150 cc's. Skip that. That ain't happening. I'll have a heart attack at my age. I can't handle the stress. This old game is making me sweat, man. I'm sweating! Stay back! No! No! Yes!
I'm a Luigi.
Save! Save! Oh, man. But yeah, you have to remember, though, like, besides rage farming, these guys, they don't want to, they don't want to look, they don't want to tell you the truth because, I mean, the truth isn't going to get views. If I made a video saying, hey, the reason why the Switch 2 is so expensive is because of Vietnam, and it's not America's fault, no one's going to click on that video. Everybody wants to be mad at Trump. Every single person. And I'm not a Trump apologist either. I'm just telling you how it is. Like, every person who's talking about this, like, on their... Even people who don't really cover politics have Trump on their thumbnails, and it gets people to click on it. So if I just had, like, you know, Japanese guys on my thumbnail discussing, you know, why the Switch 2 was so expensive, no one would click on it. And it's not just because I'm shadow banned either. It's like, no one really wants... The truth doesn't get you views. You have to lie. Just like all the stuff that's happening on Twitter with people lying about how much games cost in the 90s, you know, lies are more attractive. People are like, oh, okay, well, if games were $5 back then, it's like, what? It's like, if games were $5 back then, I wouldn't have rented most of my video games. Like, what are you talking about, Willis? What? How? Where? You show me. And it's like, and then people tell me, it's like, man, I bought those games at Blockbuster. It's like, fool, I worked at Blockbuster. What are you talking about? You know, this is what we sold the games for. N64 games in our bargain bin were 20 bucks. Super Nintendo was 15. I don't know why, it just was. NES games were 5 and 10 bucks. Game Boy games were $3. Sometimes $7. We did not sell N64 games for $5 in our bargain bin until at least 2004. Maybe. And by then, I wasn't working at Blockbuster anymore. I only worked at Blockbuster, like, when I was in community college. So I worked in Blockbuster, like, in the year 2002 to 2003. And I worked at EB Games off and on, like, in the early 2000s. And then again, like, when I went to Boston and I needed another job, I worked at another video game store. By then, they were called GameStop. They weren't EB Games anymore. Right? So it's like, I know what I'm talking about. I worked those jobs. I have experience. I saw the prices. I remember the old, what do you call it? What do we call those PCs? They weren't LCD screens, I'll tell you that. They were big monitors and they had a hum. I guess we just called them desktops. I don't remember. But we had the old, you know, loud monitors with the crappy cash register and, you know, the screen was all green. I lived that. Fighting with that stupid price gun that never worked. You know. No! How the heck, man?
Here we go.
Ah! Yeah. Yeah, you can't, now, isn't what's going on with the Japanese system, didn't Nintendo purposely region lock the Switch 2 in Japan so that people can't buy it in the America because it's cheaper? So it'll only play Japanese games? It can't play Western games at all? Isn't that what the rumor is or something? I know he beat me by a hair, Sora. That's what happens in these old games. These old games are ruthless, man. People expect me to play 150 cc's. Get out of here. Ain't happening. In fact, we're going to put cat cam on just to make things, you know, happier. There, cat cam's on. I don't think it's going to improve my gameplay, but at least, you know, you can see a cat freaking out. We're still winning, not by much. All it takes is one screw-up and I'm hosed. All it takes is one mess-up. But yeah, it's just crazy. I literally had some dude DM me. I've never seen this guy, and he's trying to gaslight me, telling me that, you know, that's not what it was at Blockbuster. It's like, yes, it was, fool. I worked there. I worked there when we were still renting N64 games, because I was trying to get a discount on renting N64 games. I worked a lot of places. I worked grocery stores. I worked Sam Goody. I worked at Blockbuster, EB Games, GameStop, Suncoast, grocery stores, restaurants. I did whatever I could to make money. Because games were expensive. Game systems were also expensive. $199 might not seem like a lot today, but $199 was hard to make back then. It took a while to buy a PS2, or not PS2, it took a while to buy a game system. It would take like at least 2 paychecks. And you couldn't use your, you know, we didn't have cell phones very much. Like, cell phones came a little bit later. Holy crap, I'm dead. That's it. That's the end of the race. I'm not coming back from that. That's over. Well, we're going to reload our thing because this is a waste of time. There's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. There just isn't. Blockbuster sold Famicom games? Not mine. My Blockbuster was outside Chicago. We didn't sell nothing. Our bargain bin consisted of Game Boy games, Game Boy Color, Genesis, NES, N64, and Super Nintendo. And people would ask us all the time, like, well, why are you selling these NES games? I don't even see these available to rent. It's like, we get these from a company that sends them to us. And, you know, Blockbuster has an agreement with them. But I said, if you pay attention to this, you go to EB Games. That's before I worked at EB. I worked at Blockbuster first, and then I went to EB. Because EB was paying more. Plus, I wanted that employee discount so I could, you know, get new N64 games or whatever. Like Dreamcast. I forget. But anyway, when I was still at Blockbuster, I was telling people, hey, you know, you're asking us to lower the prices. The prices come from corporate, for one. So I can't sell you this N64 game, even though you and I both know this is wicked old. But the price is $20. So that's what you have to pay for. Because I can't do anything. I can't give you a discount. I'll get fired, and I need this job. Because there were people hounding me back then, like saying, hey, man, you know, this game, this isn't worth $20. It's like, I know, Holmes, but I can't do anything about it. It's not worth my job. Nothing I can do. And then be like, man, bleep. And it's like, I feel you, but I can't do anything about it. It's like, if you want to go negotiate, I said, and my boss is going to hate me for saying this, but if you go drive to Rockford, there's a Funko Land. Go haggle with them, maybe do some trade-ins, and you might get the game a little bit cheaper. But I said, that's all I can do for you. Because I can't change these prices. Because I had people get up in my face about stuff quite a bit. And then later on, when I worked at EV Games, the same people were like, how the heck are you selling this N64 game in 2003 for $20? And it's like, hey, I don't even sell this game in my store. So it's like, you want some used games? I've got some Xbox, I've got some GameCube, I've got some PS2. What are you looking for? They're like, do you sell used Super Nintendo N64? It's like, whatever I got in the bargain bin. Because that was life. It's like, there was no retro market. If you wanted to go to a specialty trade store, like Funko Land or something, you know, you might be able to find what you're looking for, but they marked up the prices tremendously. They didn't haggle with you. If you want to haggle with people, go to a pawn shop back then. And that's the truth, right? But I can't stand revisionists, man. I just can't. Because it's not real. It's not a thing. It's like, they didn't even really live back then. Most of those people saying that stuff that are YouTubers in their 20s now, they were in grade school when the N64 came out. I highly doubt they had a $10 or $15 allowance when they were, like, in kindergarten. Crap!
Here we go.
I'm just getting demolished, man.
Number one.
Funko Land didn't close, they merged. EB Games bought Funko Land. Funko Land was around like 1999, 1997, I think. And they sold like Atari. They first, like, when NES and Super Nintendo were still around, Funko Land was selling like really old stuff like Macintosh and PC CD-ROM and TurboGrafx, all that stuff. And then they still had those games, but then they added more N64, more Super Nintendo, more Genesis, more Sega Saturn, stuff like that, because EB Games and Babbage's and whatever, we weren't, you know, those companies weren't selling by like 1998, no, 1997, you could not find new Super Nintendo and Genesis games in any video game outlet that was not a retro store. By 1998, there was no more Super Nintendo games being sold new, unless it was a specialty store, right? So there was the last Super Nintendo game that I remember coming out was Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems, which I believe was 1997. I think it was the winter of 97. And you could find that game for a while, and then there was like one weird Super Nintendo game. There was only like 2 or 3 Super Nintendo games that released in 97. And that was it. 96, 97. Everybody was trying to get as much stock of the N64 because the N64 was selling like crazy right around the time of GoldenEye and Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time moved N64s, and what was great about the N64s is there was multiple colors for them at $100 a piece. So the N64 went down in price eventually. It went from $199 to $100, and you could get a yellow N64, a green, a red, a blue, a see-through, whatever. Purple. There were all these different colors. So N64 was selling like crazy at one point, and then the Dreamcast came out by 1999, and everybody was buying up the Dreamcast for a while, and Dreamcast was actually doing really well until they ran out of money. So Dreamcast basically imploded because the system was, one, too expensive. The games were great, but... And the Dreamcast was an amazing system, by the way. But the problem with the Dreamcast Sega ran out of money. And then by the year, I think it was like 2000, Sega made the announcement that they were becoming only a software developer. So most stores got rid of their Dreamcast real quick because nobody could sell them anymore. When Sega made the announcement that they were no longer going to be a home console, you know, everybody started buying PS2s and GameCubes like crazy. Because there was no, you know, that was it. And then when Xbox came on the scene a year after, because I believe Xbox was 2002. I think that's when Xbox hit the scene. They came out a year after the GameCube. Because Nintendo thought, hey, with Sega out of the running, it's just going to be us against Sony. And, you know, people love Nintendo more than Sony. And then Xbox came and got a huge, quarter of the market, which ruined the GameCube. GameCube didn't necessarily fail because of its gimmick. It failed because of, like, it had to share the market with Xbox. So, there's that, you know? And if that wasn't a thing, then, you know, GameCube would have done a lot better. But it is what it is. Hi, honey. You sounded like a little kid.
Here we go.
Was that a little kid or that was you screaming? Oh my gosh, honey, you know, you sounded like a little kid. When you said, ah, I was like, oh, they're here, because I hear a little girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, honey. I know, I'm a terrible person. I know.
Here we go.
I'll read the text message.
Here we go.
No, it wasn't a little girl, it was Amber. She was coming to the door. Amber, you could like do voices for a little kid in an anime or something. I would totally believe it. Because I thought my little niece was here because I heard a person go like ah, and it was like sounded like a little kid. I know, but it just shows how talented you are. Well, it sounded cute. Because they're like, alright guys, I was gonna dip because we'll do more because it's like they're here. I'm at almost 900 views, so it's like the stream will get 1,000 eventually. All right. Read the text message. Okay, cool. Yeah, hand me your phone. Well, you're out of batteries? Well, I mean, you can't obviously hand me the phone then. My phone takes forever to charge. Mine's busted. And my race is over.
Well, Luke, most of these things are because I won't let you buy them.
No, I don't. I only replace my cell phones when they don't work anymore. I'm weird like that. I'm still using the same cell phone because, one... Am I allowed to speak? You interrupt me. Okay. I can still cover games on my phone through HDMI. Most phones today, you have to buy an expensive adapter to get it to work with HDMI. My phone, I literally plug in that special little thing, and it's an HDMI out to USB-C. All the new Androids and even iPhones don't use that. They use something way more complicated like screen sharing and all that other stuff. So as long as my phone works, like my power button is broken, and the only way I can turn on my phone is by tapping it, but I can still play games on it. I can watch my Crunchyroll. You know, I can still cover... Most mobile games use the same type of thing, so I can cover mobile games pretty easily if there's a mobile game I'm interested in. So if the phone stopped working, then yeah, I would replace it. But it still works. And then, you know, as long as I can do the stuff I want, I don't need a phone that does 4K. There's no reason for it, because it's just going to be more expensive than what I already have. Right, it's at 1%, which means you can't show me yet. How is he so much faster than me? He's a big fat monkey. Make it make sense. These games back then were super ruthless, man. Hmm? I don't have what? No, we don't have any paper plates. We just wash the dishes. The dishes are washed. Good plates. So. My parents were the ones that always gave people paper plates because they didn't want to do the dishes. And also, you have to remember, when my family came to the house, it wasn't just one person visiting. It was my aunt's kids, both my dad's sisters, and both of them had, like, 3 kids. So, you know, of course paper plates, because it was easier. But if my grandparents visited, no, we just used regular plates. And we had a joke going, like, if we used the regular plates, that meant, like, oh, crap. If we used the regular plates, that meant, you know, they were more important guests than everybody else. Because I had a very big family. And my Portuguese family, we would all use paper plates. Although my Uncle John, who didn't speak any English and muttered like he was a godfather, like, he would expect people to use the good china when family came over, and, you know, there'd be a lot of people there. There'd be a lot of, like, really nice-looking plates. And then he would have Cousin Joey or Jimmy or somebody would be in the dishes. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Okay. Yep. You didn't interrupt me. I'm getting my butt kicked in this game. Oh, no, I was just talking to the chat, though. You're here. I've been talking to the chat for, like, going over, talking about a bunch of stuff. Talking about people lying about being kids in the 90s, saying that games were cheaper than they really were. And then somebody DMing me and saying, you wouldn't know this. It's like, fool, I worked at Blockbuster and EB Games. I know what I'm talking about. I was a gamer in the 90s, and I had to budget. Like, the reason why I didn't have a lot of games I owned, if it wasn't for Mr. Pete, I wouldn't even had as big a game collection as I did, because he literally gave me, you know, several bins full of Super Nintendo and NES games because I was moving away, and I was his best customer.
I'm gonna go. People have to realize also, like, when I was out of high school, the minimum wage was $5 an hour.
Yep, that's why I had 2 jobs.
So, literally, the minimum wage is $15 or more an hour now.
Yep.
So you guys have to realize, like, how much. I mean, everything costs more. Like, there was stuff that cost a ton of money back then, but you had to literally work your tail off for months to afford, like, one extra thing. Like, I don't know where people are coming off being like, oh no, I'll have to work 3 shifts at Burger King so I can afford a game. It's like, poor baby.
Then would have taken me.
That would have been like 6 months.
No, not 6 months. I had 2 jobs. And I did so good at Blockbuster, I was actually earning 6 an hour. But then I dropped that job so I could work, because I was getting a better position at EB Games at the time. And because they were always like, man, you should just work at EB Games, you know all this stuff. And then EB Games was opening in, like, outside the town we lived in. So I went there for a while, and they offered me, I was making $6.80 an hour at EB. And I was training to be their assistant manager, but, like, it didn't work out. It was too far to travel, and, like, my golf job was starting up, and my golf job was offering me to come back, and they said, hey, we'll give you $8.50. And, I was like, sold. So I was like, yeah, I'll be back. I endured the abuse at the golf job to earn $8.50 an hour. Yep. I did. And then I got a local grocery job at Cub Foods to have like $5 an hour or something, just to pay for the gas to go to the good job.
People act like this is the only time that prices have been like ridiculous. Like even in the 70s, people were lining up the block to just pay for gas. Like there's been so many times in even recent history in which prices have been astronomical. People haven't been able to buy anything. And then it's like people are like, oh my god, it's funny that they're complaining now, whereas the pandemic, the prices were absolutely ridiculous, and also nobody had any freaking job, and everyone's business was freaking shut down, and tons of people went homeless. That's interesting. None of the homeless people are probably complaining about the price of games because they're dying in a ditch somewhere because they don't have any food. That's what I think. Is like hilarious that people are complaining about the price of games when there's literally people living in tents that don't even have any food at this point.
Yep.
I mean, I just think it's ridiculous that people are complaining. Do you know how many people are living in their cars because of the pandemic?
Yeah, but it is.
They can't even afford rent. People are complaining about the price of a video game?
Well, they're also not only are they complaining about the prices, but then they're telling us people who lived in the 90s that games were like $5 or something like that.
No.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean,
If they were $5, I would have played more than one. I only had 5 games my whole life growing up. I couldn't afford any more.
I had
the same 5 games for years.
Yep. I had a If games were so inexpensive in the 90s, then places like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video wouldn't have made a killing, because just about every kid in the 90s rented their video games. The only time you got video games in the 90s when you were a kid is when you became a teenager and you bought them yourself, or your birthday and Christmas. That's it. That's the norm. Birthdays and Christmas, and maybe like if you're Jewish, your bar mitzvah or whatever. Most people rented so many games, something like that. So, when you were a teenager, yeah, more people bought video games when they were a teenager. But when you were a kid, it's like it didn't work that way. That's why we rented. The problem is you guys today don't have rental stores anymore, because streaming services, which we would have loved in the 90s, they put video rental stores out of business. And video rental stores were a cheap way of seeing movies that you couldn't afford to go to the theater, or to play video games you couldn't afford to buy. And GameFly is trying to be relevant again. They're like, we're still here, but GameFly is terrible. GameFly is no Blockbuster. GameFly doesn't tell you, if you don't turn your game in when they say, they're going to charge you full price for it on your credit card. They won't even tell you. They'll be like, oh, the game's a month late? Don't worry. You already paid for it. That's why GameFly sucks. GameFly don't mess around. GameFly's like, oh, no worries. You didn't send the game back? It's been 2 months? Check your bank account. We already charged you for it. Enjoy your game. That's what GameFly does. People have to look at the fine print when they do GameFly, because GameFly will charge you full price if you don't return it within a certain amount. You're only supposed to, the rental, they says keep it for as long as you want, but after a month or so, they're like, wait a second. How come this person never returned the game? They see it as like you stole the game, so they charge you. It used to be when GameFly first came out, they had a policy of like, you know, return it when you want, and then after like a year, they were like, wait a second, people aren't returning the games. So then they did a 6-month policy, and then that 6-month policy shrank to 3 months. And I've heard from a friend of mine who still uses GameFly. He says, like, they will charge you full price for the game after a month if you don't return it. He says they assume that most people beat the game over, like, 7 days or something nowadays. 7 days to 2 weeks. And I had that happen a couple times because sometimes I wasn't done reviewing a game because we couldn't always get like games sent to us to review when I was a game journalist, so I had to rent from GameFly. I missed sending them back a little bit, like by 2 months, and I ended up paying a full price for a PS3 game I didn't even want. I didn't want Dante's Inferno. I have it because, like, actually no, I got rid of it. I thought it was demonic. I didn't want it in my house, so I gave it away. But GameFly charged me the full price of the game. They didn't even give me like a discount for already renting it for like $5 or something like that. I had to pay the full market price of whatever the game was. No, it's okay. It's not your fault. How the heck did Donkey Kong suddenly... Oh, he went invisible. Why wouldn't I talk about my wife? I can't beat these guys! They're just... I can't! Oh my gosh! Why? Why do I suck at this so much? I just can't do it! I never remember being this bad at 100 cc's in the N64 game. I can't beat them. Huh? What stuff? How old is the yogurt, babe? Alright, I'll check later. Man. I can't even beat 100 cc's. I'm gonna have to try again tomorrow. About what? Yeah. Everybody is faster than me. Like, every single person is faster than me. Even the fat characters that aren't supposed to be fast. I'm just saying. Every single one of them is faster than me. I mean, this is what we had to deal with like 29 years ago? Why do I not remember this? Or was I just so much better at this game 29 years ago? I thought I was actually decent at this game. I can't come back from this. Yeah, I know. Okay. You can't even get a substantial lead in this. All they give him is stupid bananas, and these guys always... Look at that! Look at how easily they catch up! Look at that! How did I ever make it out of the 90s? That's probably how I got high blood pressure. I was so angry all the time. I had to be on blood pressure medicine when I was a teenager, probably because I was so angry. I mean, my eyes are always watering because of cats, honey. I'm okay. That stuff makes me sleepy. That stuff makes me sleepy. I don't take allergy medicine unless it's really late at night or if I'm having problems breathing. It's like I'm standing still. I can't pass them. They take all the stuff. The NPCs in this are just ruthless. They're absolutely ruthless. I can't even snake past them. This is 100 CCs, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at 100 frickin' CCs. Look at how ruthless they are. This is what 150 CCs is today. Like, 100 CCs 29 years ago, this is what 150 CCs is today, or like mirror 150 CCs. This is brutal. This is bone-crushingly brutal. Oh my gosh.
Here we go.
It is clean enough. It looks nice, Amber. They take all my blocks. There's always the same two. Oh my gosh. And my race is over just like that. I will never catch them. I'll never catch them again. I'll catch the one in second place, but it's over. So, start over. I'm not, Amber. Don't ask me again, please. Nope.
Why not? You have different foods that people eat when they're going out of...
No thanks, honey. No thank you, sweetheart.
It's normal food. It's like an apple salad with like... There's like a parsley thing. And there's like an egg. Everything represents something.
Yeah, I know, honey. I don't want to talk about that stuff. I'm not Jewish, honey. I respect whatever it is you want to do, but I'm not going to that. I'm going to Easter service on Sunday at regular church.
Here we go. Here we go.
No, I'm not offended. I'm not gonna go to that.
Here we go.
I mean, when doesn't she, honey? Now watch how those guys are gonna come right behind me like I never used anything on them. Like Nintendo made, look at that. Look at how nasty Nintendo made the CPU in this. And they stole all my boxes just like that. It's over. You cannot recover from that. You will never catch them again at that point. You're screwed. If you get hit once, it's done. If you get the golden mushroom, yeah, but the game's not going to give you the golden mushroom. If you're in second or third place, they give you crap items. The only reason Mario Kart was so popular is because of the ability to play with 4 players. It was a 4-player game. Just like everybody loved the 4-player mode in GoldenEye and stuff like that. But GoldenEye had a better single player. Mario Kart 64 does not have the best single player. The AI is busted. Not only the AI busted, but the AI is, like, insanely brutal. And this is not even, like, 150 cc's. This is just a measly 100 cc's. This is supposed to be nothing. But you can see why every generation the game difficulty goes down is because people can't play games like this anymore. They wouldn't be able to. You're welcome, Amber.
Here we go. Here we go.
And the crazy thing is, no matter how many times I hit the... You have 2 rivals that will be there the entire race. It doesn't, like, other Mario Kart games, like, when you defeat somebody, they don't come back. Like, it's the next person in line who beat them. But in this game, if you knock somebody... If I were able to knock Donkey Kong down to 8th place, he would still catch up. Because the computer picks 2 characters for you to battle the entire time. And it's you 3 vying for first place the entire, like, matches. Like, you can't beat them. See? Donkey Kong, I knocked him way back, and he just managed to get up there. The thing with this game, though, that's at least nice, is in Mario Kart Super Nintendo, and it's over. In Mario Kart Super Nintendo, like, they are able to drop as many items as they want infinitely. So at least in the second game, Mario Kart 64, they can't do infinite item drops, only when they, you know, run over a block. But the computer knows where you're going to steal your block. So you can't even get a block to defend yourself because they've already taken them all. It's like they're reading what you're doing. It's freaky. Like, N64 AI is nasty. Except it's really stupid in GoldenEye. So I don't understand how they were able to do this. Like, the computer is programmed to be insanely brutal. But yet they're so stupid in GoldenEye. Unless you're playing on 00 Agent difficulty or something like that. Looks like we'll be playing this again tomorrow because I'm not gonna finish. I'll be lucky if I can even finish Flower Cup 100 cc's. And watch, in 30 seconds, they'll both be right behind me like nothing happened.
Here we go.
Final lap. See, look at that. Look, look, look. They're right there like nothing happened. You see what I'm talking about? It's insane.
Here we go.
I used a freaking mushroom for crying out loud and Donkey Kong caught up with me. That is so busted. We're gonna have to do more of this tomorrow. I don't even think I can finish this today. Like, I have not been this angry in quite a while. I'm seething. I thought, it's just gonna be a fun little Mario Kart thing. It's like, nope. I don't know why that guy DM'd me. I blocked him. I don't even know who he is. He was defending some YouTuber, and I didn't even outright say to the guy, "You're lying." I just said, "Hey, this is what the reality was. This is what it cost. I worked at Blockbuster. I worked at EB Games. Just giving you a heads up. We were not selling you brand new N64 games by like 2002 for $5. Did not happen. Used games were 20. Even back then, we were selling them for a high price. I don't know why. It was corporate's decision. We didn't have any control over the pricing. No store could be like, all right, we're going to give you this blah, blah, blah for this or that. It's like, we couldn't do that. Corporate would get mad at you. Because they have an agreement to sell that stuff for a certain price. Because it's not us that's packing those games. It's a corporation that's doing it. Even with the golden mushroom, wow. Wow, 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 wow. I don't know, Amber. You know, we're just gonna finish it, guys, because I can't deal with it anymore. We're just gonna... If we lose, we lose. We'll try again tomorrow. Because I can't deal with this anymore. It's the AI is too broken. Either that or I don't think I was playing with Luigi. I think Mario and Luigi are bad characters to use. Holy crap, I won overall? Wow. Uh... 100cc's is basically normal mode with the characters driving like they're Vin Diesel from Fast and the Furious. Yeah. But I mean, at least Double Dash, I don't remember it being as nasty as this, but Double Dash was later. Like, this N64 games did not coddle you. I barely won. Hooray. I won by 1 point. That's nothing. Victory's a victory, but still, that was horrible. Dumplings are so good. Okay, honey, thank you. You were, yeah, you barely won, but good job, Ouija. No, don't put garlic on it again. There's a difference between Papa John's garlic and your garlic. His is a garlic sauce. Yours is straight up real garlic, which I have problems with real garlic. It's too intense. Yoshi is the best character to use. Yeah, I see what you're saying. 90s cheap rubber banding coating doesn't equal difficulty. Power difficulty is overcome by practice and skill, not luck. Well, the fact that they can keep catching up to you, Jotaro, no matter what you do, I mean, it would be... That's why I like later Mario Kart games. Like, later Mario Kart games, you, if you knock out the dude who's, like, been messing with you, he's got to go all the way back from the beginning of the race, and now you're contending with new racers, and it's not the same... Like, the people who get first, second, and third in this game are the same people that you will be battling ruthlessly through 100cc's and 150cc's. Right? Whereas in other games, in Mario Kart, if you manage to knock out a guy, even in the second race, he's not going to be able to come back exactly to the same position very easily. You're going to have to deal with new racers that are vying for first and second. That would be normal in a race, but in this one, the people that you end up like qualifying with at the first race are the same people you're fighting. That's weird. And no matter what you do to them, blast them with a blue shell, hit them with red shells, take them down with a star, use your golden mushroom, they always catch up to you. So it's like a battle for first place that's really intense on the third lap or even the second lap. And the thing that I don't like about the game that I'm remembering is if you get hit once on the second lap, you are not going to get first place. You might get second if you're lucky, but if you get hit on the second lap, it is going to take you so long to get back into a strong position that you're not going to be able to catch the guy in first place. That's what I don't like about Mario Kart 64 is like, 100 cc's, 150 cc's. You can't get hit at all. Whereas playing the game at 50 cc's is more comfortable. It's got a... Because I lost like 1 or 2 races at 50 cc's. It's not like 50 cc's is baby mode. It's kind of like, it's comfortable. But 100 cc's, I don't remember it being this difficult. I might just be getting older, I don't know. Luigi's my favorite character to play as, but I struggled to win with him. So I guess tomorrow we'll be playing as Yoshi. Do I think we'll have leftovers? I don't know. Yeah, they teleport right behind you, yeah. Yep, exactly. It's insane. Is Double Dash tomorrow? No, we haven't finished the N64 game yet. N64 will be tomorrow, too. My wife is can't play 2-player today because we're doing, we're having family come soon. So N64 is going to go until at least Monday, I think, because I'm not tackling 150 cc's because we won't be able to do it. Like, we'll be playing the 2-player Star and Special Cup tomorrow, and probably battling. So I think Monday is going to be... What's the next Mario Kart game in line? Is it Double Dash or Super Circuit? What is the next Mario Kart? In terms of, like, release schedule. Did the Game Boy Advance game come out before Double Dash, or did Double Dash beat the Game Boy Advance game first? Because I like to go in order. What new Sonic racing game is out? I didn't hear about this. The new Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is coming out in 2025. They're looking at holiday or late summer, is what the rumor is. It's not out yet. It's not going to be out before Mario Kart Worlds. Okay, so Super Circuit was after Mario Kart 64. Okay. Yeah, Super Circuit, or not Super Circuit, Cross Worlds will be coming out later this year. I imagine that Sega's racing game is not going to come out in the summer. They'll wait until holiday. They're going to let Nintendo, like, have as much space as possible with Nintendo World Kart because Sega knows that they can't compete with the new Mario Kart. If I was Sega, I would make up some type of announcement and delay the game till 2026. Because any other kart racing game that comes out this year is going to get bodied by Mario Kart 2. Like, Mario Kart World is going to destroy any other kart racing game, or any racing game for that matter this year. Like, I would not want to be a company that releases a racing game in 2025. Just like Mario Kart Deluxe 8 destroyed every racing game that released in 2017. Like, you do not want to release a racing game when one of the most high anticipated games of the year is going to come out that year. Like, that, that's insane. Sega can't compete with Nintendo World, with Mario Kart World. Sega's new racing game is not even an open world game, it's a linear. I mean, 2026 would make sense, yeah, because everybody's going to be playing the new Mario Kart. It's basically, Nintendo took all the elements of Forza and the crew and put it into their own game. You know? It's just not, that's a system seller. Because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, even though Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was a port of a Wii U game, it sold insanely well on Switch in 2017. It was a port, mind you. Everybody played Mario Kart 8, but everybody wanted Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because it had better graphics, more racers, and it had Season Pass DLC. So, something the Wii U never got. And this racing game, I mean, this is going to body the competition. It's just like, you know, open world Mario, being able to play with your friends, skins for the characters, different bikes, hover cars, boats, all this stuff. This is basically Mario Kart transformed racing. Because now they don't look like weird little gliders. They literally transform into airplanes and boats and stuff. This is Sonic transformed racing with Mario Kart elements. I mean, it's true. Whereas before Nintendo and Iwata at least tried to do something different. Like, they added hover cars and they did stuff. Nah, the cars literally transform into planes and boats now. That's Sonic transformed racing. You can't say otherwise. Alright, guys, I gotta dip. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you this evening. You'll have a YouTube short go up in a little bit, okay? God bless, happy gaming. See you in a bit.